Hi BookTube. I'm here today with a video about adaptations. I've chosen 6 books. That's not 6, that's 10. This is 6. 3 of which I think should be adapted either into movie, miniseries, TV show, you name it. And 3 books that I think shouldn't be adapted. This was kind of inspired by just one reader, one being the name One. He's a fairly new booktuber. I'll link his channel down below so you can go check him out. Yeah, he did a similar video where he talked about books that should be adapted and shouldn't be adapted, and I decided to copy him. So I'm going to begin with the 3 books that shouldn't be adapted. We'll end on a positive note, because I have a few rants. First of all, quite an obvious one. Infinite Jest should never be adapted. It isn't really a book with too much of a plot going on. It's quite confusing as it jumps back and forth in time. It requires you to go back and forth like this, back and forth. And I don't think it would make a lot of sense in a visual format. So yeah, that's one book I think shouldn't be adapted. The other 2 I don't have with me, so you can imagine the covers you want here. It's your chance to be a book designer and imagine the covers yourself. The second book is the Wheel of Time series. It's a whole series. I'm listening to this on audiobook, which is why I don't possess a physical copy. And that's because I think it is just too big, too character-driven to be a TV show. It is a fantasy series about a young man who finds out that he can do this kind of magic, which is a big no-no because it's only for women, because men who do it go mad. And he has to fulfill a bunch of prophecies in order to become this guy who's eventually going to defeat their version of, I guess, Satan, the devil. Yeah. It's 14 books long. I think if people would see it and initially think, oh, fantasy series, liken it to like Game of Thrones or something, and it's not. So I think that's what would make it falter, really, and wouldn't be a good adaptation, really. And not a lot happens in each book. They're kind of slow. As I said, it's more character driven. You learn more about the characters than events happening. And lastly is the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. I would have loved to choose The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, but they've already been adapted against the wishes of Tolkien and his son Christopher Tolkien, who weren't too happy with what Peter Jackson did with them. That's why I don't like them. I'm okay with book to movie adaptations as long as the author's like, sure, why not? But if the author said explicitly no, and you take advantage of copyright running out and totally miss out important pieces and screw them up beyond belief and take out important characters, I pray to God that Peter Jackson keeps his hands off the Silmarillion and doesn't do what he did to The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings with it. Yeah, not a big fan of Peter Jackson in that regard. Okay, something more positive now. 3 books that I think should be adapted. And they're kind of... one of them is an interesting choice, and I'll show you. These 3 books here. The first one is House of Leaves. As you can see, I've tagged a lot of stuff in here. This is a book that appeals a lot based on its concept and the way it's written. So we see here some interesting ways that it's written. Now this book, if you've been living under a rock for the past year and a bit on BookTube, it made the rounds. It's kind of complicated. It centers around a movie a documentary about a photographer moving into a house and then discovering that there's a lot more to the house than he originally thought. It's kind of scary in that aspect. And then a man is writing a book based on the movie, and then a guy finds that book. That's kind of the basic idea of it. I think in the right hands, this would make an amazing movie. Granted, it would probably have to be like a 3-hour-long movie, but I think there's enough to work in there, especially with the documentary part. Maybe add a bit of the life on Zapatista. I know it won't get all the different codes and all the different kind of mysteries and everything that are evident in here, but I think it would still be a very intriguing film to see. I don't know enough about film to recommend a director or a writer that would take it on, but I think it would be awesome. The next book that I think should be adapted is Hater by David Moody. This is a really interesting take on the zombie idea, and I think it would make a really interesting movie. The zombies are called haters because they're just people who all of a sudden react violently to people who aren't like them. And you get the perspective of both sides in this book and its sequels. And I think if you kind of just merged all three into a movie, it would be really interesting to watch. I'd call it Hater. I'd like use this kind of blood aspect writing kind of on the posters and stuff to make it appeal to you. I think it would be good as kind of like almost like an indie type zombie movie. Yeah, that'd be cool. And the last book that I think should be converted into a movie or a miniseries or a TV series is Why the Last Man. This is the first volume. I think there's 10 or 11 altogether. This is written by Brian K. Vaughan, Pierre Guerra, and Jose Marzan Jr. It's about a virus that wipes out all male of every species, except for this guy, Yurik, and his monkey friend. And he has to go about trying to stay alive and figure out what happened and why he's the last man on Earth. And I think it would make a really interesting series. I think something like maybe like HBO or FX or Showcase or one of those channels should think about adapting this. I think it'd make a very interesting mini-series, I'd say, because it's 10 series, 10 volumes. It concludes with that, so it'd be quite intriguing. Yeah. I don't know if if you haven't seen the artwork, I'll just show you some of it. I think it should be done in live action. There's nothing really insane or anything that would require CGI, except maybe a monkey, if they didn't want to use a real monkey. Yeah, so those are my 3 books that shouldn't be adapted and 3 books that should be adapted. Let me know what book you think shouldn't be adapted and what book you think should be adapted in the comments down below, and thank you for watching.